There have been previews and sneak peeks of this for months. I don't think I've ever seen Nick hype up a new cartoon like this. Definitely not in years, possibly ever. It's bucking all the pessimism we've been seeing about Nickelodeon's animated slate, and it looks good while doing it. But does rock, paper, scissors live up to all the network's hype about it? I'm Benzie Johnson Jr., I'm enthusiastic about television. Let's go beyond the promos to find out if this new show has potential. It's been a rough little while for Nick lately, with a number of their current series meeting their demises and the animated slate playing a little too safe, assuming it's treated well at all. But we're finally starting to see some of the pains of transitioning between programming slates subside, and 2024 is shaping up to be a promising year for Nick. One of their most highly promoted new series recently, Rock, Paper, Scissors, premiered on February 12th, though there were a number of previews dropped before that, including multiple episodes being posted to YouTube and the show having the honor of being Nick's first ever Super Bowl lead-out program. The series is a hijinks ensue buddy comedy reinterpreting the three moves of the classic playground game into anthropomorphic roommates, not unlike what Cartoon Network's Apple and Onion did with Foodstuffs a few years back. Rock is all style and personality, Paper is a no-nonsense smart aleck, and Scissors oozes bad boy cool but is a bit of a slacker. This show is probably the first time in a while it's been tough to make any pre-premiere judgments about a new series. At least, aside from the doom and gloom assumptions that it's being shaped up to be next year's Nicktoons burn-off that have pretty much become a knee-jerk force of habit among Nick's online followers in recent years. Though lately they've been, unfortunately, pretty accurate. For a character-driven episodic cartoon like this, it all comes down to the finer details in the end. The ones that are the least noticed, but the hardest and most influential to get right. How well does it execute? How do the dynamics feel? Does the writing and humor work? How does the style feel on screen? So, has the heavy promotional push paid off? Has this show covered its bases, or does something break somewhere? Let's hit play on some of what we've gotten and see how this plays out. I'm not going to cover everything that's come out in this run, so for the sake of keeping this review reasonably focused and reasonably short, we're going to take a cross-section through two episodes. The Birthday Police, as was released on YouTube back over the fall, and Paper's Big Lie, which, thing to its plot, aired on Valentine's Day. The Birthday Police is a classic example of a ludicrous throwaway line pushed to its most literal conclusion. When the gang attempts to lie about being Rock's birthday to get free cake at a restaurant, the trio land the attention of the very specific authority meant to prosecute such minor crimes against food service. The Birthday Police.
Freeze! Birthday Police. You're all going to birthday jail. And it's worse than regular jail.
How?
They don't celebrate your birthday.
They celebrate your birthday in regular jail?
As they attempt to outrun these celebration cops, the three end up in an underground society filled with people who'd also tried to escape the festive fuzz and now don't keep track of time, or celebrate birthdays. Ultimately, they'll have to work together to get out of their tricky situation and get back home. This episode serves up a solid piece of introductory exposition to our characters as individuals and as a group. The teamwork moral was a little direct, but it didn't necessarily come off as cheesy or overwrought. It was simply a fun watch overall, which is promising for a show's early outing. Paper's Big Lie introduces us to our first supporting character, Pencil. Even though she wasn't, because we already met their landlord, Lou, in an earlier episode, and even though this wasn't her introduction, because an episode featuring her aired out of order and out of context the day before. Pencil is friendly, nice, and most importantly, smart. Really smart. And that's why Paper is hopelessly in love with her from the moment they meet. Though Paper doesn't exactly stack up to her in the brains department.
Yes, I'm an inventor. A lot of smart stuff happening in this brain. Jump, jump, ow!
And that leads to a series of compounding lies that eventually leads to an intergalactic alien confrontation with a hippo-like leader who actually has ended up in the same situation. The two stage a fight to salvage their respective prides, which only ends up creating more problems than solutions. This was meant to be the first in a string of Paper Pencil episodes. Again, that one aired out of order. And what's most interesting here to me is actually the unexpected lack of resolution. Instead of going for a stereotypical moral arc where Paper fesses up in about 10 minutes, the show stretches out this burning open question. How deep is Paper willing to go? Over about 3 different episodes, making the tension even greater in the process. It's a creative decision that honestly you wouldn't expect a show to be so willing to take, especially an episodic like this that will likely run at random. But it's still refreshing to see an unexpected commitment to a small yet creatively daring move like this. It's something I just haven't seen any other show do recently. Over the course of watching multiple episodes, one of the things you'll come to notice is that what initially appears to be just a silly buddy comedy actually has quite a bit of depth to it. The typical hijinks ensue shenanigans are mixed with moments of moody meta humor to deliver a show that is accessible across multiple demographics and doesn't talk down to anyone watching. The framing of the dynamic as apartment roommates helps to pitch the show older, and they've used that as license to create stories that keep the attention of both after-school homework procrastinators and collegiate animation tweeters alike. The elusive teen cartoon masterpiece, this probably is not, but it's also not something you'd feel bad about sticking with either if you were a little older. The show's comedy is very character-driven, as you'd expect with a show with 3 characters in its title, and luckily there is a strong cast of characters for this cartoon to work with. While most of our title cast leans into well-worn tropes, especially Rock, they don't exemplify them, and there are always a few unexpected surprises. I really appreciate the level of nuance they've put into the story development on this show. It's so unusual to see in a cartoon like this, and it gives you a lot more to grab onto and invest in as a viewer than what you might expect from a typical episodic. Stuff like the episode where Rock tries to get the picture of a frozen TV dinner to match the contents inside is just that sort of super complicated, like high-level stuff that you wouldn't expect a kids' TV show to touch on, and yet here they did it. And they even add a little bit of cynicism in it too. Like you're not expecting this to come from a Nick show, it's ostensibly aiming at a 6 to 11 demographic, but it just feels like it's doing so much more, and I really appreciate that. Rock, Paper, Scissors is a fun and enjoyable watch that definitely feels like it deserved all the promotional energy that was thrown its way. It's got a broad appeal that we don't see too often, and it never threatens to become too contrived or formulaic as its wacky hijinks ensue. It's easy to connect to and engage with, and they've really nailed the finer details that are so important for a buddy comedy to get right. It may not be completely game-changing in the long term, but it's a big level up for this kind of cartoon, and there's just really a lot to like about these 3. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss more reviews like this. Another show pushing the bounds and doing things differently right now is Haley's On It over on Disney Channel. You can watch my review of that up here or down in the description. And you can support these videos directly through my Patreon, Ko-Fi, or YouTube memberships through the links at benzie.tk/join. I'll see you next time.